Hey guys, what's up? Thanks for coming back. So today we finally got our package from the guys over at Diesel O-Rings, and that means that we can finally finish our injectors, which I'm super excited about because that will get us this much closer to getting this thing back on the road. And we all know it's been way too long, and I'm super excited to be driving this thing again. I've been missing it. So anyways, I'm gonna open up the box and we're gonna jump right into the injectors. So as you can see, everything's super well packaged. I'm actually pretty impressed by this. And we got all kinds of things, guys. Check this out. So we have the actual injector harness for both heads. And as you can see, they're all international parts, super high quality. And then we got a pigtail Alliant power for the other head. Oh, and then I also got gaskets for the doghouse on the valve cover on the CCV. I got a bolt that I lost, a resistor for the EVPB. Let's see. We got another pigtail that we're gonna splice into this one cable that I tore. Oh, and I got some dielectric grease for all the connections. Oh, we got this kit. This was actually super cheap. This is for the all the gaskets and everything that you need to mount the turbo back on the truck. This was actually, it included everything you need at a super cheap price. I'm really happy about this one. Actually, about everything. It's super cool that you can find everything in one store. So now this is the actual gasket, and all of this is also international. So again, really good quality. And there's the other one. So now that we have all of our gaskets, we can finally jump back into the injectors and finish this thing. I want to show you a few of the parts and tools that you'll need to complete this job. You'll want to have either an impact or a ratchet, 3/8 with a 13mm socket. I've talked about these sockets before. They are universal sockets. They're really handy. But you can have a regular 13mm. That'll work just fine. Again, either your impact or a ratchet with the extension 3/8 drive, hammer. You only need the handle of it. 1/4-inch ratchet, 1/4-inch extension, 8 and 10mm sockets, torque wrench with the 8mm socket, and an extension. I used this swivel extension, I believe it's called, and what that does is it so it basically allows your socket to swivel on the extension. So that's pretty handy. I do recommend that. And some dielectric grease for your connections. Obviously your bell cover gasket and harness, and glow plugs are also a good thing to change when you're doing this. I've already done mine like 8 months ago. I did the glow plugs, which I'll leave a link if you want to see that, but it's pretty much the same thing that I'm doing right now. So that's pretty much all the tools and parts that you'll need for this. I don't think I missed anything. There's really not that much to it. Okay, so just in case you missed the last video, what I ended up going with was full force injectors. These are Reman injectors, and they're stage 1 injectors. They're 180 cc's with a stock nozzle. Like I said, this truck is just gonna be a fun, simple truck. But anyways, back to the installation. Two things you wanna make sure is that you have your copper washer at the bottom, and you wanna make sure that you lubricate your O-rings. But the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna remove our glow plug. Okay, so now with all of your glow plugs out, there's two things that you want to do. First, you want to make sure that you got the little copper washer out of that injector, because sometimes they can fall in. So check back in that hole and make sure that that little copper washer is not in there, because you don't want to double stack these things. So again, make sure that the copper washer is not in there. If it's not, you want to take your injector and get some fresh oil, some nice fresh engine oil, and you want to coat your O-rings with it. Make sure that they're nice and coated. Do all of them. You've got 3 sets of O-rings, so make sure that they're all nice and coated with oil. Okay. So now you're gonna take your injector. With the plug facing towards the valley of the engine, and you want to push the little retainer up. Drop it in the hole, and then you might need to beat it down a little bit. Make sure that the little retainer passes that bolt in front of it. And then right here, you might have to give it some love to get it in there. You're gonna tap it in a little bit. Then you're gonna find, with the handle side of a hammer or a mallet or whatever, you're gonna tap the injector all the way in and get it seated. You're gonna feel it when it seats. It's kind of like a little bit of a thunk. You'll feel it. So once it's in there and it's seated, you're gonna grab your 8mm bolt that goes in the back of this thing. Slide it in there. Screw it in by hand as far as you can go. You're gonna get your oil deflector, and we're gonna install that. Okay, so we're gonna grab our 5mm Allen wrench and screw this thing all the way in. Make sure that it's nice and snug in there. All right, that's pretty good. And then we are gonna torque the 8mm bolt. Make sure that your little retainer plate is all the way up against your injector, and you can torque it. Okay, now one thing that I like to do is after the first click, I like to back the pressure off of the torque wrench and then try it again a couple times. Now that way you know that the injector is properly seated all the way down, because what might happen is that the injector is not seated all the way down, and it might torque, but it'll actually set, and you'll lose some of that. You'll lose that torque. So that's why I like to back off of it again and make sure that it clicks a couple times. That one's good. So now we can go ahead and do the rest of the injectors. You can pop all your injectors in and then do all of this. I just wanted to show all the steps that you need to do to finish the injectors. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw all the injectors in, torque this thing, and then we'll move on to installing the gasket and the harness. Okay guys, so we got all of our injectors in, and it actually wasn't that bad. Like I said, all you got to do is make sure that your copper washer is on your injector, and make sure that there's not another one already in the cylinder. You want to lube up your O-rings, install your injector, tap it in, make sure that it sits in there properly. Like I said, you'll feel it, you'll hear it. There'll be like a very distinct thunk once it's all the way down seated in the head. Then you want to throw in your bolts, your oil deflector, torque everything to spec, and that's pretty much it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and grab my injector harness and the valve cover gasket and get those thrown in there. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that my entire head is clean, where the gasket is going to sit. So I'm going to take a little bit of brake clean and spray it on the rag and clean all of this off. Make sure it's really nice and clean before you put your new gasket on it. So now that your head is clean and you got all the oil and grease and all that stuff out of there, we're gonna get our gasket and we're gonna place it on the head. So now I don't know if you noticed, but the gasket has some little tabs, and those go down and they sit kind of like where the bolts go. That way it kind of gets held in place. The next thing we're gonna do is gonna grab our harness, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a little bit of dielectric grease on the connectors. This is gonna help keep oil out of here. You don't gotta put a lot, just gotta make sure that it's covering up everything pretty good. Like I said, this will keep help keep oil out of your connection. Okay, so maybe you should put your harness on first and then your gasket, or maybe you should do it all. Okay, make sure that it's secure and that it clips in place properly. And then we're also going to put a little bit of dielectric grease on each one of these connectors. Now this isn't necessary, but it's a little, gets a little insurance, because like I said, there's oil in here. But yeah, it's a little bit of insurance to make sure that you don't get oiled or anything, or oil or anything, or a bad connection from the oil on your injectors. Another thing I forgot is that your two further connectors, they got a clip. So you have this, I don't know how well you can see this, but you have this clip on the connector, and that will clip onto the actual valve cover harness on the side. There we go. I feel like I'm making this a little bit harder than it should be. No. So now we can finally install the clip on our injector. Okay. There's that one. And we're just gonna repeat this process all the way down, and we'll pretty much be done. Okay guys, so that's pretty much gonna be it for this video for me. A few other things that I want to tell you. If you are finishing this job right now, the only other things that you gotta do is we took out the glow plugs so that you can drain the cylinders before you fire up the truck. And all you gotta do is you gotta put a breaker bar or a ratchet on your crank pulley and spin it by hand at least 3 times all the way around. That way your oil will come out the cylinder through the glow plug holes, and that way you'll save yourself from bending a rod or hydrolocking your engine basically. So you'll for sure want to make sure that that you do that. You don't want to start your engine without taking your glow plugs out and draining out the cylinders. What you can do is you can turn the engine over with the key, but just make sure it turns over, make sure it doesn't crank. That will also evacuate the cylinders from any oil or fuel that might be in there. But yeah, if you don't do that, you run a very high risk of ruining your engine by hydrolocking it. So again, it's very important that you drain the cylinders. But for me, like I said, that's pretty much gonna be it. I want to see if anybody guesses what my next video is gonna be. You pretty much saw some things that I'm doing differently, so leave a comment and take a guess at what my next video is gonna be. Another thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean up the valve covers. They're all greasy and nasty, so I'm gonna make sure I get those nice and clean. And yeah, so pretty much that's gonna be it for this video. Again, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think the next video is gonna be, and subscribe if you haven't so you can follow the build. We're pretty much there with the engine, but we still have suspension, paint, interior, all kinds of things still planned for this thing. So anyway, again, smash the like button and we'll see you for the next one.